Welcome to the Insurance Producers Podcast, where we bring you the top personalized producers, insurance agents, and industry partners, giving you at least 3 takeaways to 10x your production and build your multi-million-dollar revenue books. So sit back, relax, and become inspired by the success stories and strategies of the world's top insurance minds. Let's roll. Hey guys, welcome back to the Insurance Producers Podcast. Hey man, today's a special day because we have Mr. Jake Warren. What's happening, brother?
What's up, Cyrus? I'm happy to be on, man.
Hey, good to have you. So I've known Jake for about 3 or 4 years, and we have worked on some things together. We're partners in a couple of different things as well. And man, these guys are just knocking it out of the park. So I wanted to bring Jake on and kind of tell us a little bit about their agency and what they're doing and how they're having so much success. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun, man. So Jake, man, if you don't mind, man, give us a little background of like your past, how you got into the insurance industry, maybe a quick minute or something, and then we'll rock and roll.
So I started my career with State Farm too. I was in the retail world for a while and knew I wanted out of the retail world. So got my first job in the insurance industry at State Farm. Learned a lot there, learned the basics, I feel like. Knew right away that, that's not the future. Like I wanted to be able to run our own business and do our own thing versus being, tied to a big corporation. So got the insurance-based knowledge. Back in 2021, we decided to go on the broker or independent side. That's when we met up with you. And it was me and my wife, Michaela. We had 2 other partners at that time as well. Now we actually fast forward to today, we've bought out our 2 other partners, our other partners. And we have, I think, 8 people, including ourselves, including me and my wife.
That's awesome. Jake, what was one of the biggest lessons, man, that State Farm maybe taught you?
Man, I feel like insurance, we want to keep insurance as simple as possible, right? I feel like a lot of times people try to overcomplicate insurance. And I feel like State Farm really did teach that. They taught everything from a simplistic standpoint. Learned a lot of sales in that, as in that 5 to 6 years as well. We did a ton of cold calling. I was making 200 calls a day. Not even having any kind of fear, not even knowing what the word no meant, right? So, you just call blindly. So that right there by itself is one, you're getting in front of a lot of people, you're talking to a lot of different people. And then you're also, learning the whole sales process while understanding just the basic knowledge of insurance.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. Definitely one of my, I give a lot of my success to State Farm, man. Taught you a lot of things, and I could never, that they're our biggest competition now. And what's the beauty of your biggest competition is when you've been with that competition for a long time, you kind of have some of that stuff in your back pocket to be able to go against. But honestly, we want State Farm to succeed. We want State Farm agents to succeed because that helps our whole industry in general, right? Like by no means, there's no ill will there at all. My father-in-law is a State Farm agent. We work with them quite a bit, but I want to beat them.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly right. Like, and the processes and systems that they have too. I feel like that was a very big deal. Like you get that, implemented in your mind, because anybody can be good at sales. Anybody can be good at jumping on the phones, but it's like, how do you stay organized? How do you actually create good processes and systems? And I feel like I learned a lot from that as well.
For sure.
On the independent side, there's no one out there other than yourself, calling people like you to see what the process and system looks like. Like you don't have anybody telling you what to do and how to do it.
Yeah, man. I tell you what, I am from a sales standpoint. The beauty of State Farm and some of the captive channels is that you go to one place, like you log into one place. That's where everything is at. That's where your prospects, that's where you know who to call. All the reminders come in. It's one place, man. You don't have to go. And then from that place, you go over to the channel where you write the business. It's the same place. It's just simplicity. It just makes it so much easier for the agent to do business versus us on the independent channel. You kind of have to go to your management system, then a rater. Maybe then you go over to the carrier's website, and then you go to this other place to log it in, and then you come back, and like it's just honestly broken system. And the first person to figure that out in our industry, to where you go to one place, and that's where you go at least to close the deal, and then it could go to other places. which is kind of what we're working on. Is just saying, man, I tell my guys all the time, like I'm gonna make it by the time like I'm in the next couple of years for sure. I want to get to a point to where like Coautomation, for example, the technology we use right now internally, gets the person in, quotes it, gets me all stays there. It's like a CRM portion of it as well. It's there all the way until you close it, and then you go to the Easy Links, which is obviously our management system. If I could get to that at one point, man, life would be so much easier.
100%. Because I feel like that's one of the biggest things we struggled with when we opened was just putting everything together, right? And then trying to figure out the systems. And then at the same time, we're trying to write insurance and the efficiency and the quoting and making sure it's accurate and what this system looks like and what this carrier wants and what this carrier wants. So I just feel like you're right. Like if we could go back to, because I think about how going back to State Farm, I'm like, man, dude, how simple was all of that we did at State Farm?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was so simple. So again, I think that was probably the hardest part, right, on the independent side that I've experienced personally.
Yeah, I mean, I look at it. I was at Indie Tech. I told you yesterday, and I was speaking to some of the people, and I told them, I said, guys, our closing ratio on the first call close, which there's a lot of first call closes at State Farm because you got them off the phone, man, your closing ratio just goes deep. 100%. At State Farm is really high. On the independent channel, that first call close is extremely high. The first day close, if you could close that deal in the first day, man, your probability of closing that deal is extremely high. And then every day after that, it starts getting lower and lower and lower and lower as they forget about you. They signed up somewhere else, blah, blah, blah. So it's definitely crucial.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I feel like the sales part as well, if we can we can team that up with one thing we've been big on right now recently is trying to be an asset to clients, right? If we're selling someone based off of price, they're going to leave us based off of price, right? But if we're an actually asset to that person's business, to that person's household, well, you don't really just leave people just because of price based off an asset. You actually have a value that we're attached to, or that we're attaching to ourselves. So like when we have cancellations come through, like we'll send them a check, like just an automated email to go through and say, hey, just FYI, sorry to see you go, but make sure that these things, right? Make sure you have good coverages, replacement cost, all the things that we'd always talk about from a value standpoint on our end. Make sure that you guys have this, with your guys' new policy, because our goal is to try to offer value some way, somehow, from the very beginning of that sales process, when we get them on the phone to quote their insurance, to the very end, if they ever leave us, which hopefully they don't. But if they ever do, we still want to offer value to them when they're leaving. That way we can get back at some point.
So team dynamics, man, sales side, service side, all that stuff. You want to maybe just mention that real quick?
Yeah. So like you mean like how our office runs?
Yep. How many salespeople, how many service people, how is that kind of structure laid up for you?
So I work on, I kind of run the whole, just kind of, I guess, run all different, like all the different categories that we have in the office. So we have our P&C side, which is just all of our property and casualty. We have a commercial auto side department, and then we have our service side, and then we have our financial services. So we do life insurance as well. I kind of oversee all of that, right? And then I work on.
So you're the CEO of the organization.
Yes.
Okay.
I oversee all of that, all those different departments. Not saying that Michaela, my wife, she doesn't oversee those as well, but I'm the main person that, that they go to for certain questions on majority of those topics. Right. So I will also work on, bigger commercial accounts or bigger personal lines accounts. If it's somebody that I really know. So I'm not writing a ton of insurance right now. So that's what my job is. Michaela's job, her role, she does all of our marketing, all of our social media, all of our advertising, some HR stuff, right, on the back end. So that's kind of her main role. And then she's also second to line to me with answering any questions that anybody else needs. Then we have we got 1, 2, 3. We have 3 salespeople on the commercial auto / P&C side. And then we have 3 customer service reps as well, account managers.
Yep. So I know what you guys have done a really good job of, Jake, is the social media piece of it, right? Now I'm just curious, man, was that just something that you guys wanted to focus on, and maybe you can just mention a little bit on to everybody on what you guys are doing maybe, and how is that planning out for you guys and all of that?
So Michaela would probably be able to answer that a little bit better than me.
Yeah.
But that's the future, man. I mean,
Yep.
like, commercials, people are not on TVs anymore. They're scrolling on their phones, right? So the mindset there is we want to be top of mind whenever someone's thinking of insurance,
Mm-hmm.
because insurance is all about timing, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you can try to talk someone into a quote all day long and it does work, but at the same time, still people are going to do what they want to do on their time, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if we can be top of mind at all point in time of the day and all points in time of the month, whenever that time comes up where that person is ready to shop their insurance, the last person they thought of was us. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So how do you do that? It's consistently posting, consistently trying to show our personalities as well. I mean, video content's big.
You guys do a really good job of that.
Yeah. Like video content's a big deal. Like a lot of people think like, oh, insurance agents, like they see our faces, they see our names, but they don't get to see, our personalities. Right. And the more you can get to know someone, I mean, shoot, I'm sure you've ran into it so many times where maybe you never even met someone in real life before, but you go to a
Yeah.
networking event, you're like, man, I feel like I already know you.
Yep.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we're trying to, that's our goal, I think, with social media is whenever we do get that person on the phone, they already have a little back history and they know how we are. And they know how we run shop here. And I feel like that's been a very big key component to what we do and to how successful we've had.
That's awesome. Yeah, I definitely have to get Michaela on one of these podcasts, man, so she can kind of dig a little bit deeper and give me some statistics on how things are going and what she's seeing. So we would love to do that another time. So let's go over to the agency side, man. Like, so how has the growth been this year? What are some things that are going well in the agency? And I'm curious on those things at least.
Yeah, so growth has been good, man. I feel like we've been very consistent. I feel like every single month when there's months that we're down, right? When quotes aren't very high, it's like, oh my gosh, like this is the end of the way here, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the next thing you know, we have a ton of quotes come through, right? And it just picks right back up. So, getting through those ups and downs, right? That's been a big deal. Everybody always talks about the market that we're in, and I know it is hard. Like it makes it super hard with what we're doing, but I think this is a great opportunity to grow an agency in a market like this,
Mm-hmm.
right? We are getting to quote people and provide them some sort of value, right?
Mm-hmm.
Way more than what we would if rates were not increasing and people weren't getting canceled. So the opportunity for us to really control a market and be the go-to insurance company and agency in our area. And again, I always tell people, like, as long as we don't piss anyone off, like they should be clients for us with us forever. Because we'll always have a competitive options. Rates will go up and down, but overall, from a long-term goal or a long-term plan, we're always going to have a competitive option, no matter what the market's doing. So
I agree.
Like I love that. I think the market. Like we just hired a couple new people, and one of them was like, she was like, I have somebody in my family that said the insurance market's tough right now. And I said, yeah, that's true. It is tough. I was like, but it's also a great opportunity because now from someone getting into the industry right now, they're learning so much, right? Because sometimes you don't get to see these things that we deal with. Sometimes it might take 2 or 3, 4, 5 years before you see, something that happens with underwriting where you get to see all these different things within a 1 to 2 year time frame very quickly. So yes, there are problems, but problems, we got to have problems. That's where our job comes into play, is we can solve those problems and offer more value to the customer.
Well, they want you more than ever right now, man, because their rates are going up. They're freaking out. I just had a client right before we got on this thing. He's like, hey, my Tara was like, hey, this person's rate went from 5,000 to 16,000.
Dude, that's
16. Dude, that's 300%. Like, I was like, wow. I was like, they need us more than ever because they're freaking out. Obviously, they're saying, "Oh my gosh, they don't know what to do." So they want to call you.
Yeah,
you move them around to a different carrier. You can't do that when you're at State Farm or Cow Farmers or whatever, right? Like, so there's options that you can provide for them to be able to move them. So they need you more than ever, man. Which is where you build value. I told our team all the time, like, guys, even though they're calling because they're mad, they're whatever, claims is not going well right now. We had a lot of claims in Nebraska, obviously. I'm like, guys, the phones are ringing. This is your time to shine. This is where you build relationships so they never leave you again.
Exactly.
Right? The worst part for an insurance agency is when phones are not ringing, right? Because people don't want to talk to
There's no
you.
problems. There's
100%.
nothing. There's nothing to solve, right? And then we're not that much of an asset to them.
100% agree,
Like, I
man.
think it all goes back to being an asset to them. And the other thing to add into what you're saying with the captive agencies, and nothing wrong with the captive agencies, but they don't like. I mean, we get all kinds of underwriting, non-renewals. What happens then? I have so many State Farm agents that send me business every single day. I feel like because of non-renewals. I mean, there's a guy just down the sidewalk from me, and I feel like he's in our office every day saying, "Hey, dude, I got this other client that's getting non-renewed." Right on the broker side, we have options, right? So that also makes it attractive.
Yeah, absolutely, man. So, small town thing, right? Like, I want to talk about that real quick because you guys have grown extremely, extremely fast in a small town. So, for agents that are in small towns, man, what are some things you can do versus a guy like me? I'm in a big town. Omaha's not a
Right.
big town, but it's a bigger town than what you're used
Right.
to. What are some
So
things that these people can do, man, to
yeah.
grow fast?
So I feel like we just actually had a conversation about this the other day, and someone asked me, they said, well, what happens whenever you're in a small town and you've, insured a bunch of people? Like, where do you go next? Do you go to other states? Do you go to this? Do you go do that? Like, what do you do? And it's like, really, you just continuing to be, like you continue to be that agency in that area, right? Like you want to continue to control that market and just keep going out a little bit more far in radius. But if you do the math on it, let's say an average person pays $5,000 a year, right? An insurance premium on a home and auto, right? And there's 8,000 people in this little Pleasant Hill small town. That's 40 million. That's a $40 million in insurance premium out there hanging around on a very conservative prediction there, right? So our point is, or my point with that is that I feel like we want to be in the community as much as we can, right? Our faces want to be everywhere. We want to be aware. Everybody knows we have a podcast that we bring on local businesses. They get to come in, they get to see our office, they get to have an hour conversation with us. Everybody knows about it, right? We're not getting a ton of views with it, but the awareness is there, right? So I think just continuing to do exactly what you're doing or doing exactly what we do on a day-to-day basis, and just keep very consistent at it. Cause I feel like the consistency part is where people slack off at and say that they don't think that the results are there enough and they just stop it, versus if they just continue to be consistent, they're going to get better and better at it. And then the awareness is going to come. It doesn't happen overnight, right? But it will over, a couple of years.
Yeah. And I completely agree. I completely agree. Even on a big town, man, you definitely want to do the same exact thing, to where you just want to keep branding yourself, and
Right.
and you have more opportunities. But you have obviously you got surrounding areas and all that stuff. There's other small towns. How far are you from Kansas City?
Like Kansas City, so we're in Pleasant Hill. So we have Lee Summit, that's like 100,000
there you go.
people.
That's
That's
large
15 minutes away. Then we have Kansas City, that's like 35 minutes. So, but there's a ton of people out there, right? And it's just, how do you become, whenever someone thinks of insurance, how do they think of your agency, right? And how do you do that at a large scale? And I think how you do that is really just continuing to do what you do in a small town, right? Like, think about all the things that people do in a small town. If you were just to continue to do that and just widen out that area just a little bit more, mile per mile, 20, 30 mile radius, that's a ton of insurance premium out there.
100%. You just keep put your head down, man, and go to work. Is what you guys are doing.
It sounds so cliche, but it's like, if we just take 6 months and just go hard all day, every day at it, right? And if you could somehow just continue to do that over 6 months, there's no magic pill to do this. It's just do what we're good at, hire what we're not good at, and just stay consistent with it, I think. Which the consistency part is hard, in my opinion, sometimes.
Yeah. Well, today's environment, man, it's completely different. People don't come to agencies anymore and sit down and we used to call those IFR back at State Farm, and you obviously remember those. I was told when I started with them, and they said, "Hey, man, 3 butts in a chair. If you could have 3 people in front of you on a daily basis, you're going to be a very successful agency, right?" And those days are gone, man. Like, in a small town, it's probably not as, assuming you get some people that do come in still. But dude, I bet it's 90% less people that come to your office now than you were at State Farm.
100%. And we just talked about this again too. I feel like some of our biggest clients I have never even met. Like,
Mhm.
I mean, I have now, right? Over time, I'm trying to get in front of these people, but a lot of these people are referrals, and we're closing them over the phone, and they're talking about paying 30, 40, $50,000 a year, in insurance on their commercial, on their businesses, right? And they're not coming into our office and
Mhm.
sitting going down line by line. Like, those people are busy, right? So how do you be efficient, provide value right off the bat, and have some credibility as well?
I think more than ever, man, more than ever, small towns can have a lot more success today than they did a
Yep.
long time ago. Because I remember we weren't even a small town, but I remember, man, like there's just people in our lobby all the time when I was at State Farm, man, because that's just what you do. That's just how you do business. They came in, pay their bills, and they'll have a cup of coffee. I want to talk to Cyrus. It's like, dude, I'm sorry, man. I love you. Like, I want to talk to you, but like, I still got to run a business. Like, I can't talk to
100%.
20 people every day. I feel like more than ever today, man, the day is where the small town agents can be as big as a New York City agent, a
Yep.
Texas agent, because
100%.
with you being able to do virtual stuff, man, you can write people in Iowa, Nebraska, South
Yep.
Dakota, Missouri. Like you can write people all over the country.
Yep. Yeah, and that's where social media is so huge, right? I mean, again, like especially in an area, right? A small town. Now, if you get out of state, like yeah, we don't have a lot of networks out of states, but we all have a network in the Kansas City area, right? Well,
Mm-hmm.
now you're marketing towards not just 8,000 people in Pleasant Hill. People from all over all around the city are seeing
Mm-hmm.
our stuff, right? So, and it's creating that awareness, and I feel like that's the other thing that I think on the independent side where we have a huge advantage is like think about it, State Farm, like where we couldn't write certain things, right?
Right.
It'd be too big of a business, or not this risk wasn't acceptable or within appetite at State Farm, and then you're not going to get any of that person's businesses, right? Or business, like they don't want
Mm-hmm.
anything; they want everything under one roof, right?
Mm-hmm.
So the amount of conversations that I've had with you know way bigger companies and way bigger clients on the independent side has, I mean, like
Mm-hmm.
that number is completely more, like way more than what I ever had with State Farm.
100%. Hey, I want to talk about
Mhm.
commercial auto. I know you guys have a lot of success on the commercial auto side. What's that look like right now? Where are you guys having some success? What's the process look like there?
Yeah. So now that one is, so we do a lot of commercial auto, like like with trucking companies.
Yep.
Okay. Long haul trucking. And the biggest thing I think we have with that is Facebook groups, right? Social media groups. There's a lot of groups
Mhm.
out there where, all these different types of companies, if they're hot shotters, if they're whatever the company it is that they, whatever type of company that they run, they all have certain groups for these, and there's 100,000 members in these groups, and they're all asking for advice. What to do here, what to do there. Sometimes that's good and bad, right? But the
Mhm.
times where they're looking for insurance, we can capitalize on that with basically having extra leads. So I feel like the amount of leads that are coming through with the social media has been a huge thing on the trucking side. And then picking the phone up with that, like that's a big deal. I mean, just hammering out the phones. Those guys are very price driven, right? So because that's it's a big expense in their
Mhm.
agency or in their business, so they're always looking to save. But again, the times that we are saving, we're trying to provide value. Um, but yeah, that's I would say the biggest thing is Facebook groups, social media groups.
Facebook groups, picking
Yep.
up the phone, and calling on the Facebook groups. I'm just curious for people that don't know that. How would you recommend? Do you just recommend them first of all finding a Facebook
Yeah.
group,
I mean,
or it could be whatever niche, right? Like I was
yeah,
just talking to,
restaurants, whatever business it is.
yeah.
Just Google. I mean, if you just go onto the search tab in Facebook and just search, just if you're searching restaurants,
Mhm.
restaurant owners, join that group, right? And everybody always talks about having a niche, right? And
Mhm.
being having some kind of specialty in the agency. So whatever that specialty is, just Facebook it, and then
Mhm.
get in as many groups as you can, because there's those people all talk. When you get one trucking company, when you get one restaurant, they talk to
Mhm.
all their friends, and when you can get into a group where it's all over the United States, that's how you go. That's how you go. 50 states wide there.
That's awesome. That's great, man. So I know you do a lot of life insurance, you do a
Mhm.
lot of home and auto, you do a lot of business insurance, you do a lot of trucking. I'm curious, you're probably one of the only, well, not the only, but you're one of the few agents that wear a lot of hats, right? Like for us, for example, dude, like all we do is home insurance.
Yeah.
Auto comes with it. We don't mess with life and all that stuff. We've tried. We just don't know how to do it well. How is it wearing 4 or 5 different hats, different products that you got to know and teach your team? Has that been tough, or what have you been seeing there?
Yeah, that's been very tough. And it's something that I think we go back and forth on, right? At
Mhm.
the very beginning, it was like, hey, we want to be a one-stop shop for everybody. And like, that's why we're doing this, right?
Mhm.
Now I think we're getting a little bit like we say no to people that we don't do that. We don't do that type of insurance more than what we've ever
Mm.
done before. Because if you don't know how to do something, if you know how to write something, it's taking up so much more time than what you're getting back, right?
Mhm.
So our time is very valuable, right? And we have to understand that versus just saying, yeah, we can do this, yes, we can do that, and blindly saying yes, right? So
Mhm.
but with the home and auto, that's always going to be a foundation within our agency. Like I feel like that's
Mhm.
never going to go away. Or if it does, it'll be a long time. You know, it'll be a ways down the road. Commercial side, I like working with small businesses. We're big on contractors, construction companies. There's a lot of them out here, blue collar area, and there's a lot of them out there, right? And those guys, especially, they don't have a ton of luck on the captive side with at least in
Mhm.
our area. So I definitely like that. Commercial auto has been very good because we can scale at I mean, I feel like we can grow that very quickly and there's
Mhm.
big premium in that. So it pays very nicely. Life insurance, we did not do a ton this year. And that was one thing, like I think we wrote maybe like last year, we wrote probably 100 life apps or issued like 100 life apps. This year, I think we've done 10.
Mm.
So and that feels better because again saying no to those people that you don't know if we have a
Mhm.
market for that type of insurance, and then also shifting our focus and hammering out the good process and systems with the home and auto and the commercial auto. I feel like that's been a big thing for us, but because it does get a lot, like especially the bigger we get, like it's just
Mhm.
like it's very overwhelming, and then we're not an expert in any of those,
Mhm.
right? Like
Mhm.
we want to be experts because that's we're big on, again, providing some kind of value and being an asset. So if we're not an asset to these people because we don't know what we're doing, it's not
Yeah,
really.
so I guess tell me, if you were starting again today, or if agencies are starting right now, would you do it all over again the same way?
I mean, that's a good question. I would say
Or would you
yes.
pick a product?
I would say yes because you don't know what you don't know, right?
Mm.
Like when we first got into it, we don't know what we like doing, right?
Mhm.
I didn't have all the knowledge I have
Right.
now, right? At the very beginning. So I'm saying yes. If I say yes to this thing, it's just as hard as this other thing, right?
Mhm.
This other type of product. So, and again, maybe this is the wrong way of thinking about it, but I feel like by saying yes at the very beginning, that taught us a lot, right?
Mhm.
That taught us a lot. And then now you niche it down and now you can say no more because you know what you're good at. You know what you like doing. You want to do what you like to do, right? I hate, there's, for some reason, we have a bunch of people call us all the time for like people who have event centers, like they have
Mm.
weddings and receptions and all that stuff. And I hate writing those policies. And for
Mhm.
some reason, they call us all the time. And I finally started saying no, like I don't like writing them. They're just not fun for me. And I just started saying no. So I feel like understanding what you like is a big deal because I'm big on passion. Like if you don't have
Mhm.
passion to do what you're writing, that's going to come through the phone versus just
100%.
looking at it as a premium, that you're saying yes to.
Yeah. That's awesome, dude.
I don't know if that makes sense or not, but that's
No,
kind of my
100%.
answer with it.
100% makes sense. So today, if I had to have you pick one line out of all
Mhm.
those, which one would you pick?
I would still say home and auto.
Why?
It's I think the process. I think that's what I'm most comfortable with.
Mm.
Process and systems with that.
Mhm.
I feel like we have. I feel like from the client experience that we have when we get this person on the phone to the very
Mhm.
end is great. Like I'm not
Mhm.
saying that we can't be better at it, but I feel very confident with that whole system. So I would stick to that.
And you've been doing it for a long time. With State
Yep.
Farm, you did it for a long time. Now you're doing it for a long time. You have the
Yep.
carriers to back it up.
Yep.
You win a lot more, and
Yep.
it's taken a lot less time to do it.
All of that.
People ask me all the time, like, "Why'd you?" I'm like, "Bro, like I can write 20 clients a day as a team.
Yep.
Like I don't have to wait a whole week to write one business policy that's really complicated. Like I
Mhm.
just don't have. And honestly, on the back end, also, dude, I can lose 100 clients this year. It's okay. Like
Yeah.
it's not gonna hurt, and it hurts me when I lose clients. You know, last couple of weeks we've lost a couple of big clients, and it hurt. It still hurts, no matter how
Hmm.
big you get. It
Hmm.
still should hurt because then it means it matters to you.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's a great point. Like, if you got a guy paying 100 grand, right? That's a big hit to the agency, right? If they ever leave
Hmm.
you, and that takes a lot of time. And then you have the renewal piece of it.
Hmm.
Some of those big commercial accounts, they're not automatic renewing, right? So you got to shop, and you don't have markets for it, and sometimes you just lose it because you don't have a market for it.
Hmm.
Versus home and auto, we have way more markets, right? So the speed that we can get these people on, and the speed that we can do on the renewal time, I
Yeah.
feel like is a very big deal.
And you can almost like budget yourself as a business owner. You're like, hey, listen, like I know I expect 10% of my PNC to leave me on the personal line side. You
Mhm.
can budget yourself a lot easier versus
Correct.
I feel like budgeting yourself for life insurance or
Mhm.
commercial and stuff like that because you really have no control over, I guess, if
100%.
that makes sense, in
Yeah.
some capacities. So
Yep.
so dude, this podcast was obviously used to called Win the Day. So I've got two more questions for you, unless you have anything else on the insurance side.
No, man. Like I said, I think the biggest thing that our mindset is the market's tough, right? But it's just as tough as it was the last time everybody said it
Hmm.
was tough, right? And it's just as worse as the last time, and it'll be worse the next time it's this bad, right? So
Hmm.
it's just how you look at it, and I feel like this is an opportunity market, and that's kind of the way we have our mindset with
I
it.
love that mindset. I love that mindset. What's your definition of greatness?
Definition of greatness. So I actually just went through some self auditing stuff on ourselves, me and my wife, and really kind of opened up our minds to a lot of things. And I would say the definition of success for me, and I think it's probably everybody has a little bit different, is we are all viewed a certain way, right? Like I view you a certain way, but do you view yourself that way, right? If I were to tell you exactly how I feel about which I probably have at some point in time,
Mm-hmm.
um, do you actually think that about yourself, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think I'm viewed a certain way. We're viewed a certain way, but do I believe that? Like, it's
Mm-hmm.
basically what the public sees of you and what you see of yourself. And the day that I see myself for what the public sees me as, right, or for what my peers see me as, or what my employees see me
Mm-hmm.
as, I think that's the day that's what success is to me, because that means I'm
That's,
living consistently on all the things that I value in my life.
yeah. So what you're almost saying is, um, most people do this. They just don't see themselves as great as other people maybe see yourself because you look at yourself, you're like, man, I could do so much better, blah, blah, blah. I
Yep.
could do this, blah, blah, blah. But other people are like, man, you're doing great. Like you are great, right? But like
Correct.
you almost like undervalue yourself,
Hmm.
if that makes sense for the
Yeah.
more. I love that, man.
And if you can really hit that on, and you believe
Mhm,
that, think about how
mhm,
much better of a leader you'd be, a better salesman, a better, everything that, son,
mhm,
friend, like all these hats that we wear, like that's how you show up for people. And that's how you get, I think that's the success, of what that looks like in my head, in my
I
opinion.
love that. And then win the day, man. Obviously I'm a big win the day guy. I'm a daily kind of guy. We got to win every day. And
Yep.
what's one thing that you do every day, man? That if you do that, you can put your head on the pillow and be like, man, that day was a one for me.
Yeah. So, I would
Not a
say
Kansas City Chiefs win, dude. Don't say that.
that's actually just a given nowadays. So,
Yeah, exactly. You just
no,
don't know how to lose anymore.
to say we just don't know. It's been too long since we lost a Super Bowl, so I just don't know. I would say I love working out. Like,
Mm,
even if it gets me to the gym, like
mhm,
anytime, like, so I've been, yeah, anytime I go to the gym, I would say working out, because
mhm,
I could be super stressed out. I go to the gym, I get a good workout, and my mind, I
mhm.
can feel my mind and my attitude is
Sugar.
just completely
Mhm.
changed. And it's, I think, recognizing maybe when I am feeling stressed, or I'm feeling grumpy, or whatever that is, just go to the gym, get that knocked out, and come back and
Rock and roll.
regroup. So I think working out, if I can go to the gym every single day, that always will turn my day around and make me
That's
feel
awesome.
feel good.
Jake, my man, I appreciate you, man. This was
Appreciate
great.
it.
Thanks for being on. We definitely have to do it again.
We will. Thanks, Cyrus.
Thanks, brother.